Okay, so let's dive in. We're in this landscape, right? Hyperspeed, digital transformation, AI is basically rewriting everything. So why, in this tech-obsessed world, does the CIO's character, their integrity, their empathy, their core values, why does that suddenly matter more to the bottom line than maybe even their technical chops? It feels a bit backward, doesn't it? In an era where everyone's talking code and algorithms.
It really does. It's the big paradox of the digital age, I think. The tech gets faster, sure, but the leadership, it actually needs to get more human.
Or human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that old model of the purely technical sort of command and control CIO, it's over. Fundamentally done.
Why, though? What's changed so drastically?
Well, think about it. Every single part of the business now leans on complex tech. It's distributed. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So your human capital, the trust you build, getting everyone aligned, that's really the only edge you have left. Your leadership style is your strategy now. It's not separate.
Leadership style is strategy. Okay, that's exactly the complex reality we need to unpack today. So our mission here in this deep dive is to really synthesize the frameworks, look at the real-world results tied to these two leadership models, authenticity and servant leadership. And these are often, really misunderstood, I think.
Definitely. People hear authenticity or servant and think soft skills, fluff.
Right. But they're not.
Yeah.
We're arguing they're actually high-leverage tools.
Yeah.
Tools for building teams that are resilient, high impact, the kind of tech teams that can actually do the transformation work.
Exactly. We want to get past just the definitions. We want to show you, the listener, how you actually operationalize these ideas. So we're pulling a concrete framework, so, stories of how it's applied, looking at the business case, all to help rising IT pros.
Right.
Whether you're leading a dev team now, maybe you're a VP, or you're aiming for that C-suite spot. This is about leading with integrity, yes, but also with real influence and crucially measurable results.
Okay? And if you, listening right now, are looking to really level up that leadership mindset in tech, to move beyond just, managing the boxes and wires and sort of actively shaping the culture, then definitely follow this series and maybe share it. Share it with someone you know who's getting ready for that next big executive jump. This kind of thinking is it's essential prep work.
All right, let's lay the groundwork. It all starts with trust, right? And trust in this context is built through authenticity. This model, it really came into focus back in the early 2000s. It was largely a reaction, actually.
Reaction to what?
To those massive corporate ethics scandals, remember? Enron, WorldCom. They just shattered public trust. It forced a whole new conversation about leadership needing to be driven by values, being transparent, guided from the inside out.
Okay, that makes sense as an origin.
Right.
But in today's IT environment, it's frantic, constant deadlines, vendor pressures. How does the CIO actually cultivate genuine character? How do they avoid just faking it? Just ticking the boxes for compliance or transparency theater?
Yeah, that's the challenge. It takes real developmental work. Deep work, and it centers on 4 core components. You can't really skip any of them. First one, self-awareness.
Self-awareness. Sounds basic, but probably isn't.
It goes way deeper than just knowing your job title. It means really understanding your core values, your strengths, sure, but also your weaknesses, especially your psychological weak spots under pressure. And importantly, the motives behind why you make certain decisions.
So a self-aware CIO would know what situations make them impatient, or maybe lean towards micromanaging.
Exactly. And they wouldn't just know it. They actively work to mitigate that behavior. They'd build systems or checks for themselves.
Wow, that requires some serious introspection. Because the flip side, a lack of self-awareness, that makes a leader unpredictable.
Right.
And unpredictability just destroys trust.
Kills it, absolutely. So that's number one. Number two is the internalized moral perspective.
Internalized moral perspective. Okay.
This is the bit that ensures consistency. It's like an internal regulator. Your actions are guided by your own ethical standards, your values, your true north, as some call it. You're not just reacting to whatever pressure is loudest or what's politically convenient or, the lure of hitting some short-term financial target.
Okay, but let's push on that a bit. Let's add some friction. What happens when the board, or maybe the CEO, is really pushing for a risky tech fix? Something short-term to juice the quarterly numbers. Doesn't that internal true north often just get run over by those big external financial pressures?
That's the ultimate test, isn't it? Maintaining that perspective. It takes courage. Real courage. You have to be willing to articulate the long-term risks, the moral implications of that quick fix. Even when it's unpopular, you become the strategic voice for organizational ethics, maybe even when nobody else wants to hear it.
So it's about playing the long game, ethically.
Precisely. Okay, third pillar, Balanced processing. This one is super critical in the IT world. Think about making a huge, maybe irreversible decision, like picking a massive ERP system or going all in with a specific cloud vendor.
Yeah, those are big bets.
Huge. An authentic leader, before making that call, has to actively and objectively analyze all the information. And crucially, seek out diverse viewpoints, especially the dissenting ones, the ones from maybe the engineering team or the security folks that really challenge their initial gut feeling or assumptions.
So this is the antidote to confirmation bias, the expensive kind,
Exactly. We've all seen it, right? The CIO who picks a technology just because it worked at their last company.
ignoring all the internal warnings.
Yeah. Balanced processing means you don't filter out the negative feedback just because it messes with your preferred story. It means you actually bring that skeptical engineer into the room and you really listen to their risk assessment. You value that friction.
Makes sense. And the last one.
The fourth component is relational transparency. This is about openly and honestly sharing your true self, which means sharing the wins, of course, but also, and this is the hard part, sharing uncertainties, vulnerabilities, maybe even admitting, hey, that technology strategy we tried last year, it was flawed.
Oof. That level of vulnerability, it's tough, especially for executives who are often coached to project absolute competence, total invulnerability.
It is tough, but the outcome of pulling all four of these together, the self-awareness, the moral compass, the balanced view, the transparency, the outcome is consistency. Consistency between what you value and what you do. And that is the ultimate credibility builder. It massively boosts stakeholder trust, team morale, everything.
Okay, so that's authentic leadership. What about the other side of the coin? Servant leadership.
Right. So complementing authenticity is servant leadership. It's actually an older concept, but maybe even more transformative potentially.
Well, where did it come from?
It was conceptualized by Robert K. Greenleaf way back in the 1970s, and it just flips the traditional power dynamic completely on its head.
The core idea is basically, I am the leader because I serve. The leader's primary reason for being there is to serve their people, not the other way around.
Wow. So the people don't exist to serve the leader's goals.
Exactly. The leader exists to serve the people's needs. The focus just shifts entirely.
Your main job as a leader becomes removing obstacles that are blocking your team, developing their skills, making sure they have the resources they need, helping them thrive, both personally and professionally. It's the ultimate people-first approach.
Okay, but again, let's make it concrete. We don't want this to sound like some vague, fuzzy ideal. What are the actual characteristics? How does it show up day to day?
Good point. Based on models building on Greenleaf's work, there are key characteristics, things like fundamental empathy and compassion, like truly trying to understand the emotional reality of your team members.
So, not just asking how are you, but actually caring about the answer.
Precisely. It also demands superior listening skills. And I mean active listening, not just waiting for your pause so you can jump in, but really absorbing what's being said. Persuasion is also key.
Persuasion, not command.
Right. You lead by influencing, by reasoning, by building a shared sense of purpose, rather than just leaning on your job title or formal authority. And really important for a CIO, foresight.
Foresight, like predicting the future.
Not quite crystal ball stuff, more like thinking conceptually, looking ahead at the team's long-term needs, anticipating roadblocks, strategically managing things like technical debt or talent gaps before they blow up into full-blown crises.
Okay, that makes sense. So you have authentic leadership focused on inner truth and consistency, and servant leadership focused on empowering and enabling others. How do they connect?
They share a powerful ethical imperative. Both are fundamentally values-driven ethical models. They both put the human element front and center. They both build on trust, integrity, and this is key, empowerment.
Empowerment, we'll need to dig into that.
We will. But think about the synergy. An authentic CIO builds trust because they're transparent. People understand the why and how behind decisions. Then the servant CIO comes in and reinforces that trust by showing genuine, visible care for the team's well-being and their success.
So it's like character meets action, consistency meets care.
Exactly. And when you get that combination, you create something researchers call a psychological ethical climate.
Why is that so critical, especially for an IT team?
Because that climate creates safety, psychological safety. It means your team members feel safe enough to voice dissenting technical opinions, safe enough to challenge architectural assumptions even if they go against the grain, safe enough to admit when a project is derailing early, And ultimately, safe enough to just be their authentic self at work without fear of retribution. That safety, that's the absolute prerequisite for real innovation and agility, especially when the stakes are high.
Okay, so we've got these two powerful ethical leadership models, but we need to connect the dots, right? How do these behaviors actually lead to better business results? What's the mechanism?
Right. We need to bridge that gap between the theory, however compelling, and the actual outcomes. And the bridge, the thing that consistently pops up in the research connecting these leadership styles to positive results, is empowerment.
Empowerment. So that's the catalyst, the secret sauce that translates leadership actions into team commitment and performance.
It really is. It's more than just, delegating a few tasks. It's a deep psychological state
Yeah.
for these employees.
Psychological state.
Yeah. Study after study shows that empowerment mediates the relationship between, say, authentic leadership and outcomes like higher job satisfaction or stronger organizational commitment. Basically, without that feeling of psychological empowerment in the team, even the most sincere, authentic leader is going to fall short on results.
Okay, so let me see if I get this. An honest, transparent leader,
Yeah.
but one who's still a rigid bottleneck, wants every decision to run through them. They won't get the same results as an honest leader who actually pushes decision-making power down.
That's the core insight. You absolutely cannot skip the empowerment step. It's non-negotiable for unlocking the benefits.
So what makes up this psychological empowerment? What does it feel like for an employee?
Good question. Researchers break it down into 4 key dimensions. First is self-determination.
Or autonomy?
Pretty much. It's that feeling of having control over your own work, your processes, your pace. For someone in IT, say an engineer, this could mean having real architectural autonomy, being able to choose the right tools for the job instead of being forced into some rigid, outdated methodology from on high.
Okay, self-determination. What's second?
Second is impact. This is about feeling like your work actually matters, that it contributes something meaningful to the organization's goals. It's the difference between just logging hours and knowing that the feature you built or the security patch you deployed directly protected the company or delivered real value to a customer.
Right. Nobody wants to feel like a cog in a machine.
Nobody. Third is meaning. This is maybe the deepest one. It's when your personal values align with your job role. You find genuine purpose in your day-to-day tasks. A good servant leader works really hard to connect, say, an engineer's passion for elegant, stable code with the company's strategic need for reliability and resilience. They make that link explicit.
Connecting personal values to company mission? That's powerful.
Yeah.
And the fourth?
Fourth is competence, simply feeling skilled and capable of doing your job well, feeling like you can meet the challenges. And servant leaders are crucial here because they actively invest in training, mentorship, and opportunities to build that sense of mastery in their people. When employees feel all 4 of these self-determination, impact, meaning, and competence, that's when you get intrinsic motivation. That's when you get real commitment that goes beyond just the paycheck.
And this isn't just a Western idea, is it, this empowerment model?
Not at all. That's what's so fascinating. We looked at a study, for instance, in the events industry in the Middle East. Now, you might expect more traditional, maybe hierarchical or bureaucratic cultural norms in that region, right?
Yeah, actually.
But even there, the researchers found that authentic leadership still positively predicted commitment and job satisfaction. And why? Because it was mediated through those empowering behaviors. It strongly suggests that the desire for autonomy, for impact, for meaning, it's pretty much a universal human driver.
Wow. So that really undercuts any leader who says, oh, empowerment just wouldn't work here. Our culture is different.
Exactly. It shows that feeling capable and having a meaningful voice is fundamental. It transcends cultural backdrops. It transcends industries. It's a powerful argument.
Okay, so empowerment is the mechanism. Let's talk hard numbers. The payoff. The
Yeah.
ROI of a people-first culture. You hear HR folks talking less about just engagement surveys now and more about the whole employee experience in
Mhm.
gigs, treating employees like internal customers. Is there data to back this up?
Oh, absolutely. And the financial argument is, frankly, overwhelming. It's not subtle. Companies that score high on employee engagement, they don't just do a little better. They outperform their peers by a staggering 147% in earnings per share.
147%.
Yeah.
That's not a rounding error. That's a massive strategic advantage.
Massive. And it's not just earnings per share. If you look specifically at something called the Employee Experience Index, organizations that score high on that see nearly 3 times the return on assets compared to companies lagging behind.
3 times ROI on assets. And if you're a CIO managing millions, maybe hundreds of millions in tech assets and capital spend, that number should just stop you in your tracks. Building that culture isn't a nice to have, it's directly driving asset performance. Faster releases, fewer security foul-ups because people are focused, less technical debt because teams feel ownership.
Precisely. And there's more. Think about long-term investment. Research out of the University of Pennsylvania did a comparison. They looked at companies investing 10% of their revenue. When that 10% went into hard capital improvements, new servers, buildings, whatever they saw, about a 3.9% productivity boost. Okay, not bad. But when they invested that same 10% into their people training, support, improving the employee experience, the productivity increase jumped to 8.5%.
More than double the return.
More than double. Investing in your people is demonstrably the highest yield investment a tech executive or any executive can make.
And the flip side, the risk of not investing in people and culture.
Equally severe, especially now in this talent market. A toxic internal culture can just go viral overnight. It cripples your ability to recruit, and you hemorrhage institutional knowledge as people leave. There's IBM data showing that companies with high EX scores had only about 21% of employees saying they intended to leave. Compare that to low EX scores, where it was 44%.
Wow, a 23-point difference in retention intention? That's huge.
It's the difference between leading the market and constantly playing catch-up because you're always backfilling roles and losing your best innovators.
Okay, the business case is crystal clear. So if a CIO buys into this, how do they actually systematically build this people-first culture? Where do they start?
It absolutely has to start with leadership advocacy.
Meaning the CIO has to champion it personally? Can't just delegate it to HR?
Cannot delegate it. It has to be visibly demonstrated by senior leadership. Think about that big shift a few years ago at the Business Roundtable. You had all these top U.S. CEOs basically redefining the purpose of a corporation, moving away from just shareholder profit to serving all stakeholders, explicitly including employees and communities. The CIO needs to embody that same spirit, aligning the tech strategy and results with genuine care for the people delivering them.
Okay, top-down advocacy.
Yeah.
What's next?
Second big area, communication and listening. This is where the servant leadership aspect really shines. It's probably where a servant leader spends most of their time. The basic framework is listen, interpret, and then act. You have to deliberately create channels where input is not just welcomed, but guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Because the stats suggest we're pretty bad at this overall, right? Like only 3 out of 10 U.S. employees feel like their opinions really count at work.
Dismal statistic, isn't it? If 70% of your IT team thinks their input is basically meaningless, you are flying blind as a CIO. You have massive blind spots.
So what are the practical mechanisms beyond the big annual town hall meeting?
You need a structured, regular, two-way channels. Things like mandatory one-on-one coaching sessions focused on career development, using anonymous feedback tools, maybe tied to specific projects or initiatives, and things like those coffee with the CIO sessions, but and this is critical, they have to be designed for the CIO to listen, not to lecture. The explicit goal is uncovering team pain points. And then the absolutely crucial step is closing the loop. You gather the feedback, you interpret it, and then you have to demonstrate action based on it. People need to see their input leads to change.
Listen, interpret, act, and show the action,
Yeah.
okay? And the third component, you said it was the hardest.
Yeah, this is the real mountain to climb, achieving full alignment.
Full alignment between
The individual employees' values, their aspirations, their career goals, and the organization's overall mission and strategy. It means really understanding what drives each person on your team and then making a conscious, deliberate effort to connect those personal drivers to the work they do every day. It's about translating that big corporate vision into meaningful micro tasks. When an engineer sees exactly how their obsession with code quality directly contributes to the company's strategic goal of, say, customer retention through reliability, that's when they shift gears. They move from just checking the box to actively driving impact. That connection, that's where discretionary effort comes from. That's the gold.
Okay, let's bring this down to the ground level for today's CIOs. They're dealing with immense complexity, especially around talent and navigating this just revolutionary speed of AI adoption. How do authenticity and servant leadership actually help in that context? Are they practical tools for managing crises, not just nice ideas?
Absolutely practical. They're survival tools, frankly. Look at some real-world examples from IT execs. Take Nicole Raimondo Coughlin, the CIO for the town of Cary in North Carolina. Her authentic leadership really came to the fore during the early days of the pandemic. It was driven by necessity.
How so?
Suddenly, through endless video calls, she had this unfiltered window into the daily lives of her staff. She was seeing the reality, the childcare chaos, the partners trying to work in the same room, the makeshift home offices, the sheer stress.
Right, it wasn't abstract anymore.
Not at all. And she realized her duty as a servant leader shifted. It wasn't just about keeping the town systems online anymore. It was about addressing the physical and mental well-being of her team. And she didn't just offer sympathy, she acted. She pushed for adjusted work hours. She encouraged people to prioritize family emergencies over non-critical tasks. And she heard about people getting backaches and neck pain from bad home setups, so she went and advocated successfully to get them home office stipends.
Wow, that's tangible service.
Incredibly tangible. And the result?
Right.
Service continuity for the town, yes, but crucially, dramatically increased loyalty from her team. They had low turnover, high engagement, right through that incredibly tough period, precisely because of how IT leadership treated them. That's the ROI of genuine care in a crisis. Loyalty becomes your shield against things like the Great Resignation.
That's a powerful story. And you mentioned radical listening, too.
Yeah, look at David Rees, the CIO over at the University of Miami Health System. He basically formalizes the servant approach. He describes his main job as listening more and talking less.
Yeah.
He holds these mandatory open coffee hours. Anybody from his teams can come, and the agenda is completely open, unrestricted.
What's the goal there? Just venting?
The goal is pure service. Identify team pain points, whether it's a clunky internal tool, a bureaucratic process that's slowing everyone down, maybe a lack of clear career paths, and then fix them immediately if possible. And this relentless focus on removing blockers, it paid off in staffing. He grew his IT team significantly from about 223 to 300 people over just 2 years. And here's the kicker, with minimal turnover. In the healthcare IT talent market, which is incredibly tight, that's a massive competitive advantage built on listening.
Okay, so servant leadership is about care and removing obstacles.
Yeah.
But it can't be all about being nice, can it? What about accountability, tough decisions?
Excellent point. Servant leadership needs to be paired with authenticity that doesn't shy away from the hard stuff. Look at Lisa Davis, the CIO at Blue Shield of California. She's very clear that authenticity does not mean being soft. She emphasizes it actually requires being direct and honest and holding people accountable.
So how does she blend the two?
Yeah.
Direct accountability and servant approach.
Her approach seems to be set clear, high expectations. That's the strong part. And then enforce accountability through coaching, through providing clarity, but do it while remaining completely approachable. That's the servant part. It's honesty combined with approachability. That builds the trust you need for high performance. People know where they stand, and they trust that their leader cares enough to tell them the truth, even when it's difficult feedback.
Makes sense. Okay, let's pivot to maybe the biggest strategic challenge right now, AI transformation. How does authentic leadership help navigate that?
It's foundational. Absolutely foundational. Jamie Iannone, the CEO of eBay, talks about this. He stresses that AI readiness, embracing AI, it has to start right at the top. Leaders have to proactively adopt it and model the behavior they expect.
Model it how? Just talking about it.
No, actually using it. He models both transparency and that balanced processing idea by visibly using AI tools himself. Like using AI-generated music for their big all-hands meetings, or creating videos using AI tools like Runway.
Huh.
That kind of hands-on endorsement from the CEO sends a powerful signal to, 18,000 employees worldwide. It helps overcome that natural fear of change and gets people to buy into the vision. And eBay backed it up structurally, too, with things like an AI week, an internal AI academy, putting AI ambassadors in every department.
Right, and Iannone also talked about leveraging AI natives, didn't he? Gen Z, recent grads.
Yes. This is fascinating. He champions the idea that these younger employees who basically grew up with these tools are a huge asset. They have an instinctive grasp of AI. And this opens the door for something really powerful, reverse mentoring.
Reverse mentoring. The junior people mentor the senior people.
Exactly. This is where humility and balanced processing really come together for a leader. The CEO actively seeks out learning opportunities from junior employees. He lets the AI natives push the rest of the organization forward, as he put it. Imagine the signal that sends. A top executive admitting they need to learn from a 20-something developer. That demonstrates incredible humility. It tells the whole company that learning and contributing matter more than your spot on the org chart.
That's a great culture builder.
Yeah.
But this rapid adoption, everyone using AI, doesn't that lead to new problems like control issues?
Oh, absolutely. It leads us straight into the governance challenge of the decade.
Yeah.
Shadow AI.
Shadow IT, but supercharged.
Exactly. You've got AI agents now that can act autonomously. This brings back all those old IT fears about unsanctioned tech popping up everywhere, but the risks are exponentially higher now.
How bad is the problem? Is it theoretical or is it really happening?
It's happening. It's rampant. Some reports suggest something like 70% of ChatGPT accounts being used in workplaces are unauthorized. 70%.
Wow, so employees are just uploading company data.
Yes, they're trying to be efficient, right. So they're uploading confidential corporate documents, strategy papers, customer data into public third-party large language models without any approval. It's not just a compliance headache. It's a massive data leakage risk waiting to happen. Because these AI agents can easily process and then surface confidential information based on a simple unauthorized prompt later on.
Okay, so what's the answer? You can't just ban AI. That kills innovation.
Yeah,
But you can't let it run wild either.
right. Banning is futile. It's an innovation killer. Trying to lock it down too tightly is also probably futile. Employees will just find workarounds to use the tools they find most effective. So the authentic and servant CIO approach here is to kind of reject the fear, lean into it, and embrace something called governed democratization.
Governed democratization, meaning
Meaning you enable widespread use, but within safe boundaries. It's the servant act of empowering productivity, but doing it safely. Think of it like this. The CIO's job isn't to be the brake pedal on AI. It's to provide the seatbelt and the rules of the road.
Okay, I like that analogy. So what are the practical guardrails? What does that seatbelt look like?
First, the CIO absolutely has to build structured governance, clear policies. Who can actually create custom AI agents? What types of proprietary data are off limits for external tools? What operational permissions can these agents have? You need clear rules defined.
Structure first.
Got it.
Second, you have to proactively prevent unauthorized file storage. All your existing file security means nothing if someone just downloads a sensitive doc and uploads it to a public AI service. So CIOs need to deploy sophisticated enterprise-grade data loss prevention DLP tools that are specifically tuned to detect and block risky interactions with these public LLMs.
Oh, tech controls to back up the policies. Makes sense. What else?
Third, think about licensing AI agent builders. Before you give employees access to powerful internal tools to create their own AI automations, make them go through mandatory training, they need to understand the governance rules, the security risks, the data privacy implications. This helps create a cadre of citizen developers who are empowered but also responsible. Training and certification, basically.
Kind of, yeah. And fourth, and this is crucial for building trust, provide secure enterprise-grade alternatives. You can't just say no to the powerful public tools. You have to stand up internal versions, secure LLMs running within your own corporate cloud tenant, behind your firewalls. Platforms that give your people the cutting-edge functionality they want, but keep the data protected and give you audit trails. If you provide good, secure internal options, shadow AI becomes much less tempting.
Okay, we've covered a lot about the what's and why. Let's get practical again. Leadership is a skill, right? Not just something you're born with. Skills need development. They need tools. What frameworks can people use for their own self-development in authenticity?
Great point. For cultivating that sustained authenticity, a really useful tool is Bill George's True North model. It's designed as a guide for that kind of deep, genuine leadership development.
True North. How does it work?
It breaks it down into 5 essential dimensions leaders need to explore and cultivate. The first is identifying your purpose. As a CIO, your purpose has to be bigger than just keeping the systems running. You need to articulate the core difference you want to make. Is it enabling speed, driving innovation, ensuring rock-solid compliance, improving the customer journey? Every major decision should tie back to that core purpose, that passion.
Finding your why.
Okay. Second is defining your core values. And this isn't just, listing some nice words on a poster. It's about identifying maybe the 3 non-negotiable values you operate by, and then asking the hard question. Are my daily decisions, who gets promoted, which projects get funded, how I handle conflict, are they consistently reflecting those values?
Walking the talk on values.
Yeah,
Got it.
Third is focusing on relationships and heart. Authentic leaders don't just manage tasks, they build genuine connections based on empathy, based on compassion. For a CIO, this means deliberately investing time in those informal, maybe scheduled check-ins with key stakeholders outside of IT. Not just showing up when there's a crisis, but proactively building understanding and, frankly, political capital.
Building bridges before you need them.
Exactly. Fourth is self-discipline. This is the engine that ensures consistency and accountability to your purpose and values. It requires real self-regulation, maybe using tools like regular journaling to reflect on your actions versus your intentions, or having an accountability partner, a peer, a mentor, a coach who can give you honest feedback. Without that discipline, even the best intentions can come across as inconsistent. And inconsistency, as we said, is toxic to trust.
Purpose, values, relationships, self-discipline. What's the fifth?
The fifth dimension in George's model ties it all together. It's about integrating these aspects into a coherent whole, leading from your true north consistently.
Okay, so that's a framework for personal authenticity. What about for putting servant leadership into practice across an organization? Are there similar tools?
Yes, there are. A very practical one is Joey Rochi's 333 framework. It's designed to take the servant leadership philosophy and turn it into concrete, actionable steps.
333. What does that stand for?
It breaks down into three sets of three. First, the three key priorities for a servant leader. These are developing your people, building a trusting team, and achieving results. And notice the order there. Results are crucial, obviously, but they're positioned as an outcome of prioritizing the people and the trust first.
People, trust, then results.
Okay. Then you have the three key principles that guide behavior. These are serve first, always considering employee and stakeholder needs before your own self-interest. Persuasion, leading through influence and shared vision, not just authority. And empowerment, systematically pushing responsibility down and encouraging initiative.
Serve, persuade, empower, and the last three.
The three key practices. These are the daily actions. They include active listening, making it a regular habit to solicit input, not just an annual survey. Delegating meaningful responsibilities, giving people real ownership, not just scut work. And connecting followers to the mission, constantly showing individuals how their specific tasks contribute to the bigger picture, like a customer success or a strategic goal.
Listen, delegate meaningfully. Connect to mission. That's very concrete.
Very. And you can see how well this integrates into modern IT practices. Think about Agile and DevOps. Championing those methodologies naturally reinforces servant leadership. The Scrum Master role, for instance, is explicitly defined as a servant leader. Their job is to facilitate, remove roadblocks, protect the team, not command them. And things like team retrospectives, they're perfect platforms for encouraging that authentic voice and balanced processing we talked about earlier.
So these frameworks aren't separate from the work. They can be woven right into how IT operates.
Ideally, yes, but as powerful as these models are, we have to talk about the nuances, the potential pitfalls and criticisms. We need to address the authenticity paradox.
The authenticity paradox. What's that?
The critique here is that authenticity can be misused or misunderstood. It can't mean being rigidly stuck in your ways. Sometimes leaders confuse being authentic with just being inflexible. Or they use it as an excuse to overshare, maybe dumping unfiltered negative thoughts on their team without considering the impact. If a CIO just rigidly sticks to their old self, maybe a style that worked a decade ago, but the market or technology has shifted dramatically, then their authenticity actually makes them fail to adapt. It undermines their influence.
Okay, so how do you find the balance? Let's say a CIO gets feedback that their presentation style is really poor, or they lack emotional intelligence in certain situations. If they take coaching and actively work to improve those skills they didn't authentically have before, is that being inauthentic?
Not at all. That's the key. Authenticity has to be paired with emotional intelligence, with professional judgment, with a willingness to grow. A leader needs to be sincere, yes, aligning their behavior with noble values, but they also need to be flexible and adaptable. It's about being true to your core values, not being rigidly attached to a specific style or set of existing skills. You can authentically choose to develop new skills.
Sincere in values, flexible in style. Okay, what's the other major critique? You mentioned servant leadership being seen
as being too soft versus strong. This is a common one. Skeptics argue it's idealistic, maybe even naive. They worry that a servant leader won't be able to make the tough, necessary calls. You know, the hard decisions like budget cuts, restructuring, maybe even firing an underperforming senior team member. Can a servant really do that?
Yeah, that's a fair question.
It is, but the misunderstanding needs a forceful counter. Servant leadership does not mean avoiding tough calls. It doesn't mean lowering standards or shirking accountability. In fact, it often requires setting exceptionally high standards. The difference is how that accountability is enforced. It's enforced through coaching, through clarity of expectations, through encouragement, through objective feedback tied to purpose, not through fear or coercion or just throwing your weight around because you have the bigger title.
Okay, let's make that concrete too. Let's apply the friction. You're the servant CIO. Market tanks unexpectedly. You have to execute a 15% reduction in your workforce. It's not optional. How do you handle that process while still claiming to prioritize employee well-being?
It's incredibly difficult, obviously. But you lead with transparency, balanced processing, and care, even through the hardship. You're authentically honest about why the cuts are necessary, transparency. You ensure the decisions about who is impacted are based on objective, fair criteria, not politics or personal bias, balanced processing. And then you handle the notification, the severance, the outplacement support with the absolute maximum dignity and generosity the organization can muster. Service. In that scenario, the leader serves the organization by making the necessary, painful call. And they serve the exiting employees by treating them with respect and maximizing their support during a horrible time. That choice is agonizing, but it isn't soft. It requires immense strength.
That makes sense. It's about how you do the hard things.
Exactly. And for executives rising through the ranks, this means developing really robust managing up skills. You often have to be prepared to demonstrate, probably with hard data, how this servant approach actually enhances effectiveness, how it drives innovation, reduces security risks, improves retention, especially if you're reporting to senior executives who maybe expect a more traditional command and control style. You have to make the business case upwards.
You have to prove the ROI we talked about earlier.
You do, and the commitment it takes. It's deep, it's continuous, it really demands daily choices. Choosing to listen before reacting, choosing to ask for input even when you think you know the answer, choosing to take time for mentoring, choosing to constantly reflect, are my actions today aligned with my values? The ability to lead with this kind of character. It's just inseparable now from the ability to drive strategic technology success in the long run.
Okay, let's try and bring this all together then. A summary. What's the core takeaway?
I think the key takeaway is this. Modern IT leadership, effective leadership in this digital era, absolutely requires both authenticity to build that essential foundation of trust and ethical clarity, especially when dealing with complex systems and data and service, to build teams that are empowered, loyal, capable, the teams that can actually deliver on ambitious transformation goals.
And these aren't just, secondary personality traits.
Not at all. They are strategic drivers. They drive agility. They drive talent retention. They are core to competitive advantage in the digital age.
So for the CIO, it's about continuous work.
Continuous self-reflection, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Using frameworks like True North or the 3-3-3 model to structure that growth, and making conscious choices every single day that reflect integrity and that service mindset.
Great. Well, thanks for tuning into this deep dive. If this conversation sparked maybe a new way of thinking about how you lead or how you want to lead, technology teams, please pass this knowledge on, share it. And if you're ready to lead, really lead, stay with us for the rest of this series.
Before we sign off, here's a question to chew on. A reflective prompt for you, the listener, whether you're aspiring to be or currently are an IT executive. How do you personally balance the intense pressure to meet aggressive, maybe non-negotiable business goals? Cut costs by 15% this quarter, hit that non-negotiable regulatory deadline. How do you balance that pressure with the fundamental principles of servant leadership, the principles that say prioritize your people's well-being and their long-term development? Where do you draw the lines? How do you navigate that tension?
That's a tough one to end on. Food for thought.
It is. Just remember, technology drives change, but leadership drives impact. Keep learning, keep growing, and lead the future you want to create.